Okay, happy Monday. Let's see. This is one of our. We didn't have. Did we have 5 days last week? I don't know. We had 4 days last week. It's our first 5 day school week. Um, Welcome back. And just a reminder, right? So yeah, I'm gonna give you grace this moment, but I'm giving everybody a reminder, right? If you're not here on time this week, I will be having you sign in tardy. So please do your best to be here on time. Okay. Um, so jumping into it, let's go ahead. This today's lecture is a little bit lengthy. We're talking about assessment and how I measure your learning in this class. So you'll have to sort of stick with me on this. Not super fun, a little bit more rigorous material. I'll try to go through it as quickly as possible. But I want to obviously get you squared away and set up to be successful for the semester. So we're going to deal with what's called the Student Learning Assessment Template. We're going to go over how I grade you in this class related to labs. Okay. Um, so we are now basically 12%, right? Every week is 6%. So we've completed 2 weeks. So we're 12% of the way through the semester. And jumping on in, we'll do the Student Learning Assessment Template Overview. I'll talk a little bit about SEL curriculum and how I have that embedded into the Student Learning Assessment Template. And then a quick overview of Google Classroom and organization and how to set up a shared Google folder, which we'll be doing because you'll need that to collaborate throughout the semester. So it's going to be sort of a busy day. I wanted to draw your attention to congratulations to a handful of students that posted the first items in the stream. So we've got a what is that? Let's see here. Let's look back at the notes. I made a peanut butter and jelly Danish. All right, pretty cool. That actually, I thought it was a Danish. I learned that sometimes you need to take stuff out before how long the recipe says. Okay, so degree of doneness, pull it out, and yeah, obviously sometimes baking time varies, and so that's exact. This is a model student learning assessment or model experiential learning credit post because Morgan told us what was made and then told us what was learned. Okay. And I received a couple of these over email as well over the weekend. I would ask that you preferably submit them to me in the stream. Here's some pumpkin cookies that were made again, Morgan. Elizabeth made some brown butter London fog cookies, some Earl Grey in there. And then Ryder did a little bit, it looks like some fried rice. I saw that over email. And then he also posted it in the stream. So those students that posted over the weekend get double, get 10 points for experiential learning credit. And so just a reminder how you do that is if you look at the screen here at the top, after I grade these, I always push this note back up to the top. And here's the directions on how to post experiential learning credit, what you prepared, and what you learned. Okay. So with that being said, just a little reminder, feel free to take advantage of that, but great job for those of you who posted. Okay, now what I want to talk about is POST, the Student Learning Assessment Template, and how I do assessment in my class. And so you're going to see up here under my station, holding up a stack of this assessment template. And I'm going to go ahead and would you pass these out? 113. I'm going to pass these around. We'll pass these around, and then I just want you to peruse it. Okay, as I'm talking about it, this is basically how I measure your learning in all of our lab situations, which comprises of the majority, of your grade in my class. And so you have a hard copy of this in front of you. You have a hard copy on the cabinet door on each station, so you can reference it at any time. It's also located, obviously, in Google Classroom, and it's also embedded in your student learning assessment template. This is sort of the format that we use for that. Okay. So you're going to notice that POST stands for professionalism, organization, safety, sanitation, sustainability, technique, and taste. So these are all standards that are recognized by the industry, and they're standards that I have come to um, with input from faculty when I've led culinary schools and as such. These are standards that are in place um, that align with industry standards, right? So it's not that these came out of thin air and we just said, all right, these are the things we're going to focus on. But we received a lot of feedback on this rubric over the duration of my career in post-secondary culinary arts education. I took it and made a variation of it for the high school level, but it works really well to say these are the expectations in the industry that we're aligning with. And so you can see, again, professionalism, organization, safety, sanitation, and sustainability as S, and then technique and taste. Those are the things that we'll measure learning on. You'll notice on the rubric on the left side of the rubric, it's got that no effort, satisfactory, proficiency, and mastery. I talked about this before. I don't expect you to live in mastery. All the food that you make in this class doesn't need to be perfect, but at the same time, I want your effort to be there, and I want to reach sort of beyond that baseline of not doing anything. Right? We want to live in that satisfactory, preferably proficient level, and then visit mastery on occasion when you hit it. Okay, and then on the right hand side, you can see sort of a breakdown. Okay, it says in terms of points um, awarded, you can talk about consistently demonstrating it, often demonstrating it, seldom demonstrating it, or just simply not demonstrating the standard. Okay. So, and then there's point values associated with that from 0 to 4. So that's how I grade you every week for our labs, which again is the most important part of our the weight in our grade. It's the most important value. So I'm going to walk you through a template. So you're looking at the screen now. I'm going to walk you through the template as it looks when it's blank, okay, to start. So you're going to see the learning target. It's on the whiteboard. You're going to type that in, okay? It's always going to be on the whiteboard. It's always going to be at the top of your recipe, okay? So you type that in, and then you'd write your name and your team member names. First names is fine, okay? Then you're going to insert, so you'll just have a photo that you'll use, and this is a way that I get to know your names and faces quicker. Insert your photo and insert your team photo. So whenever you have your whole team here, once we start cooking, you just take a photo and you'll insert that. There's also right here, it says here directions. Collaborate on orange post slides as a team and complete the green reflection slides individually and submit. Okay. So I'll show you in a minute what a populated student learning assessment template looks like. But the bottom line is the orange slides are slides that you do as a team together. Now, how you approach that is up to you. You might choose to break it up, and one person does P, one O, one S, one T. You might choose to say, hey, you're going to carry more weight this week, and I'm going to do less because I'm chef of the week. So however you break up the workload and learning load is up to your team, so long as you work together on the populating of the information. Okay. All right. So, and again, there's a link here to the example, and I'll walk you through that in a minute. So you can see here. Here is the professionalism slide, and here are the standards. And then there's 2 green check marks on the left-hand side. You'll simply take these check marks and you'll move them over here to the standards you've chosen to align with, okay? So in this instance, you might choose the standard, I wear appropriate attire, closed-toed shoes, no crop tops, hair is restrained, okay? And so if you look like that, you can take a picture of yourself, boom, that standard is evidence. Take a picture, import the picture, and you're done. And then all you would do then is you'd select the standard, then you'd go to step 2, and it says here, so the first step, it says, drag the check marks to the left of the 2 pre-selected professionalism standards. So early in the week, when I give you your recipes, that's when you take time and plan. what standards are we as a team going to focus on this week? Okay, so you identify those standards together. These are the 2 standards we're going to do this week. Then what you're going to do is explain who and how your team demonstrated the 2 standards. So you're going to provide an explanation, 1 sentence. That's all that's needed. Okay. Then you're going to increase that sort of next level learning by producing evidence of completion of the 2 standards with 2 aligning photographs. So you'll see, look at the slide up on the screen. Okay, you're looking at the screen. Left to right, there needs to be a relationship between the identified standard that your team chose to focus on and the photograph and the explanation in the middle. There's a relationship between all those 3. You don't just import a random photo, you import a photo that demonstrates the standard. Okay, so if you're going to demonstrate, say, I follow teacher directions, you might literally have a picture of me talking to your team, and you're like, okay, Mr. Fritz came and talked to the entire team about how to do X in the technique, and we did what he said we were supposed to do. So then you would just simply put that photo there, and you're done. Okay? So the idea is to show me I can't be everywhere all the time, but the idea is that you are demonstrating the building of good habits, okay, around professionalism in this case, and you're demonstrating it and then evidencing it. Okay? But there's a direct relationship between the left column, the middle column, and the right column. So as you can see, the same thing goes for professionalism as it goes for the next slide, organization. Next slide, safety, sanitation, and sustainability. And next slide, technique and taste. All right. So your experience is to work through, and you're going to see the only thing that's different on the technique and taste slide is there's taste notes that go at the bottom. So you taste the item that Thursday and you make notes about it. How did it taste? Was it overseasoned, underseasoned? Degree of doneness? Was it cooked to the proper degree of doneness? Was it hot or cold, so on and so forth. So you would make notes about how it tastes. And then on the right-hand side, you would simply produce pictures showing me the linear process of the techniques that you prescribe to. So you'll notice at the beginning, it's the start of the cooking process, and the end, the last photo, is the end of the cooking process. It could be the finished product, okay, on a plate. It's fine. Okay, so that's how our weekly POST assessment works. This is the hardest part of my class, okay, because it requires you to stop and think. And I know that can be challenging at times. I understand that, the discipline that's required to do that. But this is where I said one of my commitments to you was to maintain rigor in this class. This is where it happens because it's forcing you to think about what you did and to show that you did it. Because the outcome of that is, okay, is that you start building repetitive habits around these standards. Okay, so my goal was for you to build good habits in the kitchen that will help you for the rest of your lives. So you got POST. Okay, here is an example of a slide that's populated. So Delaney Brown, okay, this is her slide deck from a couple years ago. Delaney actually is one of my employees at Social Kitchen, ironically. And so Delaney created this SLAT. It was really well executed, so I asked her permission, and I use it as a standard sort of for this lecture to show you what good learning looks like. So then, and when you click on this button right here, okay, there's also going to be a sample one as well. So you could choose to look at this one as an example. All right, so I provide an example. So you see the check mark is moved, the explanation of who and how did it, and then evidencing that standard to the right. All right, so going on with Delaney here, I'm going to scroll down, and Delaney here says, I contribute towards discussion. And in this picture, I am telling Emmy how much of the liquid to pour in at a time because it was creating lots of steam and was getting really hot. So she literally says who did what. All right. And then there's a picture of them working together doing that. Okay. You got O, S, and T. Okay. The one thing that, again, I need to make note of before I go any further is the one thing about taking pictures is if you take a picture to evidence a standard, but you're contradicting some other standard, I'll take points for that. So if you talk about we did dishes in a timely fashion, but then there's a knife in the sink, then I deduct a point. So when you take a picture, you need to think about, are we doing the right thing? Are we managing knife safety properly? So this is an example here of something not being done correctly because there's a knife in the sink, and so I would take points off if I saw that. Now, continuing on with Delaney's last slide, you see the technique. We're slicing some onions, dicing some onions at the beginning, and then here's the rice pilaf at the end, okay? So again, POST, some notes about how it tasted. She said our rice had really good flavor. The rice and onions were softened and easy to eat with no resistance. Great interpretation of the finished dish. Okay, so we finished the orange slides. You do those as a what? Team, right? The green slides you do as a individual, right? Thanks, Aaron. Okay, so the green slides here, individual learning reflection. Now you got to understand, I have it set up for plagiarism in Google Classroom in the slide deck that I post. So if you use the same learning reflection information as somebody else on your team, I'll get notification of that. I won't care where it originated. I'll give you guys a 0 on it. So you have to have original thought here. The statements do not even need to be complete sentences. I'm not grading you on your grammar. You need to simply post 3 things on this slide that you learned. Now, you can't say I learned how to cook and that's it. You need to be very specific, okay? You're going to find that on this slide it says list 3 things you learned during the lab, all right, vocab, technique, team related, etc. You need to think about what you learned, okay? I want you to synthesize it. All right, so I'm not looking for general statements that are like, oh, I learned how to bake. That's not sufficient. Okay, be specific. But it doesn't even have to be a complete sentence. If you get stuck, then look to the right, okay, and those questions will draw you out, tease you out, and help you think about how to reflect. Now here, if you have any special notes to me, problems, conflict with your team, I always keep an eye out for anything typed in this field. If you have problems, this is a great place to type them, okay? Second to last slide here, okay? You have this individual learning flame, okay? And this flame can move around. You see how I'm moving it? So the idea is you're gonna move the flame, okay? And you're gonna tell me where you're at. No effort, satisfactory, proficient, or mastery, okay? So no effort says I'm basically wanting to engage, but I'm not engaged. Satisfactory says I'm starting to learn. Proficient says I'm almost there. And mastery says I'm a pro. Okay? So move the flame to where you think you are in this particular competency. And then I want you to reflect on your high skills, okay, and your basic skills. The high skills is basically the technique for the week. It says here, high skills, cooking technique for this week. What were the strengths? What do we do well? And what are the opportunities, the gaps? What can we work on? Just type something in there. Okay, reflect, type it in there. Then as well, basic skills. This is the stuff that I'm teaching at the beginning of the semester. Food safety, sanitation, kitchen operations and safety, measuring, knife handling and safety. All of that is basic skills. Okay, so those basic skills, you're going to reflect on them and go, okay, what am I doing well? What would I do differently? What are the gaps? Okay, so this is to get your brain to think about how you're learning in this class, and it's not rocket science. You just need to sit down and do it on Fridays, okay? And preferably even start it before Friday. So you'll move the flame onto this little learning journey, and then you'll fill in this information. The last slide is your SEL slide. And so here you're going to reflect on your self-management, your self-awareness, your responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. So you're going to think about social emotional learning, okay? And then you're going to reflect. You're going to write 1 to 2 sentences about how it's going. And again, there's directions at the top of every slide related to social and emotional learning. What area or areas did you grow this week, and explain how in 1 to 2 sentences. So I'm a believer that you're a whole person as a learner. There might be something going on outside of the classroom that's having an impact on how you learn. Okay. So I want you to reflect on how are things going? What can I do differently? What is influencing my attitude in class? So think about yourself from a social and emotional level. There could be stuff going on at home that's having an impact. So, you can write that in here, and that helps me understand where you're at and helps you understand where you're at more importantly. Again, on this one, you're going to move the smiley face, you're going to grab it, you're going to move it to the area that you're choosing to focus on that week. And you might find that you're focusing on an area reactionary, like, oh, I think I was really trying to be kind to my partners this week. So then I'm working on responsible decision making, or I'm working on, working with my team a little bit better and dealing with relationship skills. Okay. So you might find that it's reactionary to something that you did. That's okay. So just reflect and go, oh, this is sort of an area that just happened to be what I was working on this week, just because that was what was going on for me inside. And then you're going to simply type right here, okay, how you did there. You're going to drag that emoji to the area that you're focused on. And then if you want more information, all right, this is video overview, and I'm just going to go ahead and play this since I've got it opened up. A video overview of what social emotional learning is. Just go ahead and watch the screen closest to you. It's a CASA framework. The goal of that is structured in such a way that it's encouraging you to reflect in these categories, these areas of your lives, and think about that in the context of how that influences your ability to learn. Okay, that's the video that I just played. All right, you're going to see that there's components of what you do in this classroom and here at school that are in your control: your thoughts, your actions, how you speak to yourself, how you see yourself, what you give your energy to, the goals that you set, how you handle challenges and your boundaries, and how you manage your free time. Those are all things you can't control. But the future, the opinions of others, what happens around you, how others take care of themselves, what other people think of you, the actions of others, the past, okay, the outcome of your efforts, all of those are areas that are not within your control. So this poster is actually up by the front. There's a poster about SEL and about what's in your control and what's not. I just want to urge you, as you think about SEL, think about that in the context of what you can control, because there are things that will happen in this classroom that you cannot control, and it's important to know the difference. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and transition here.